Today, we have a very special guest here at CourtSide. 50 years in racket sports, 130-mile-an-hour serve recorded in the mid-'80s, 27 and a half years running on one club's tennis program in Dallas, nearly 700 podcast episodes, and a fifth great-grandfather who was chief of the Chickasaw Nation. My guest today is Craig Bell. He's an RSPA master professional, the co-host of the At the Net podcast, owner of Bellboy Sports, and a guy who has pretty much done everything you can do in this industry. Player, coach, director, recruiter, equipment rep, live streamer, podcaster. He's been in it since 1974, and he's still going. I've been watching his content and listening to At the Net for a while now, and the thing that comes through most is how much fun he has with all of it. I'm Evan Deckman. This is CourtSide. Craig, welcome.
Thank you, Evan. Glad to be here. Don't believe everything you see and read all the time, so a lot of it can be made up. So no, I've actually been very blessed in this life to have had a lot of experience in the great game. I call it the great game. And for me to make my avocation my vocation, I never would have dreamed of doing what I do. And looking back on the things you were saying, it's like, yeah, it's been a great ride. So thank you for having me.
100%. So you started in racket sports in 1974 at Woodlake Racquet Club in OKC. You
That's
were
correct.
around 10. What was that world like?
Back in the 70s, actually, I was 14, so I was born in 1960. It's easy.
Sorry.
See, no, it's okay. It's easy for me to remember since I was born on a zero, like 1960. So that's the only way I can remember things. So I am from Oklahoma, and so you have to consider that. Now, 70s were a great time. I grew up at the I consider it probably the best learning laboratory I could have ever experienced for a young person to get into the profession that I'm doing currently. Woodlake Racquet Club, I still have a lot of good friends from there. I started working in the lawn mowing area outside of the club, beautifying the trees and the bushes and mowing grass. And then I moved into the more the front of the house, the air-conditioned side of the operation in the pro shop, front desk. I was soaking this all in. I worked there off and on for about 7 years because I had gone to college for a little bit, but I worked during college. And then when I officially moved up to Utah to finish up my college career, I stopped working there. But I watched everything that was going on there. And it was just an unbelievable time. The 70s were a heyday of tennis, and there were being broadcast matches on PBS with the great Vic Braden on Saturday nights. I just became immersed and just so lucky that tennis found me, or I found tennis, however you want to look at it. I couldn't have asked for a better growing up experience in Oklahoma City at Woodlake Racquet Club.
What a time. So Weber State, all conference, all region, 131 miles per hour serve at the Jansen contest. When did you think I could go pro, and when did you think teaching is where I belong?
Well, that's a really good question. So I was out on a summer circuit in about 1982, and there were a bunch of really good players. I didn't realize how large the pool was for tennis players. So I remember I was in Shreveport, Louisiana at my first kind of professional type tournament in the minor leagues, and some kid named Jimmy Arias, which was the big forehand, was the number one seed. And I was like, who is this guy? And then another thing that was really fascinating about this event, 56 draw in qualifying to get into the main draw, which were limited to about 8 to 16 spots. You're going to have to win 4 or 5 rounds in order to make the main draw, to play a guy like Jimmy Arias, who actually ended up winning the tournament too. But I was like, wow, I didn't realize there were people all over the United States in college tennis wanting to play professional tennis. So there was about a 4 or 5 week tournament. We went to different places: Monroe, St. Joe, Louisiana, Little Rock. And then after that, I kind of figured, you know what, this is going to be tough. And by the end, though, the last tournament, the qualifying was down to a 64 draw. So there were other people out there going, my gosh, but there were unbelievable players on this tour. And I was sitting there. I remember my very first day, I was watching my doubles partner play, who I played with at Weaver, and Eric Sturmo. He was playing Brad Gilbert. And I was like, Brad Gilbert, who's this guy? And then I was sitting right next to me, like what we're talking, was Billy Martin. who's the UCLA coach. I remember these guys. They don't remember me, but I just remember that impact. I was like, my gosh, who are these people? And what am I doing here? But I played a little bit. I had a couple of good wins out there on that little summer circuit. And at that point I was like, you know what? I had a wife or fiance waiting for me. We ended up getting married. So I've been married 43 years in August. So I chose the right career path for me. Teaching tennis. If you can't do it, then you want to go teach. So, I was okay as a player, not great. I don't know if I could have stayed out there and made any impact, but I think I chose the wiser of the two paths when the road forked. And I chose the teaching side.
Well, you mentioned your wife, Cindy, and you met her playing college at Weber State. Married
That's
since
right.
'83. You mentioned
That's right.
43 years. Congratulations.
Yep.
How much
Coming in
of your
on,
career was shaped by that relationship?
my gosh, it made me settle down, because it made me take on a whole new responsibility. And so when we moved back after I graduated in '84, we moved to Oklahoma City, my hometown, and I worked at another facility, not Woodlake, but I worked at a country club. And I can remember a real defining moment. I was playing in a tennis tournament, and I really wanted to play this gentleman who was a local legend the next round. I had beaten the guy that I was playing in this round coming up earlier in about he played for OU, and I'd won that match a couple of days before. And I thought, okay, I want to play. Colin Robertson was the big guy in Oklahoma City. And it was my kind of childhood dream to play this guy. But yet I had about 200 phone calls to make ahead of me for my junior program on Monday that started up. And so I was sitting there thinking back and forth as I was playing this match. Do I win this match and then go get to play the local legend? Or do I lose this match and then go do my job? And so that's when really the rubber met the road. I ended up losing the match. I told my mom, she was watching me. I go, Mom, I'm so sorry. I couldn't. I was caught between, two worlds that were, I want to play, do I want to teach? At that point, that was a career defining moment for me. I'm a tennis teacher, not a tennis professional any longer. If I happen to play some professionals here along the way, that's fine. I never got to play Colin, by the way. I told him that. I said, I really wanted a chance to try to take you on, but unfortunately, a job and payment of rent and all sorts of bills. So that's where I was going with the story. The responsibilities that I needed to do to be able to have a wife, have a happy life, so to speak, and to be able to live somewhat comfortably and learn my profession. I figured that was probably the wisest thing to do. But yeah, the responsibility factor, I've got 4 kids, and 2 of them live up here in Utah where I live now. I moved back just last year, basically, to be up here closer to Cindy's family. My family does not live in Oklahoma City any longer. We're kind of spread out. My mom and dad passed away a number of years ago, so nobody's really in the Oklahoma City area. So I retired from Bent Tree Country Club, 27 and a half years, like you said, and it was a great run. I still miss those members. That they treated us just like a member, even though I wasn't a member. I knew where the line was. It was a lot of the things that I accomplished at Bent Tree. I'm so grateful that the members were appreciative enough to let me try anything I really wanted to. Like I said, I learned all that stuff at Woodlake Racquet Club and some other places along the way. I had some really good mentors
Fabulous.
there that I think I've mentioned to you in the bio. I had some really great professionals that helped me out. And so I enjoy helping other people out also too. So as a result.
For my listeners out here, if you run a program at a club, the next few questions should probably resonate. So as we heard, Craig had spent 27 and a half years in one place, and that kind of tenure is almost unheard of today, right? Bent Tree Country Club, 97 to 24. Before that, Oak Hills Country Club and the University Club, 27 years at one club. Craig, what made you stay? I'm assuming that it's because they made you feel like family.
Oh yeah, there was a really nice member-owned club in the North Dallas area. I had 4 kids also too. There were some other opportunities that came up, but they weren't as good as Bent Tree, and I knew it. And we had 4 indoor courts, we had 12 outdoor courts. Ended up having 3 dedicated pickleball. So I had the greatest setup ever. We had a viewing area up on the 2nd floor. My wife, when she said, "Hey, would you like to move?" and I was like, why do we want to move? We just had spent a massive amount of money on a club house renovation. Tennis, we'd just done some renovations at the clubhouse. I was in great shape. We had a bunch of new members. And so I acquiesced and said, you know what? Okay, it's 27 and a half years. is a great run. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other pros in my area that were around the same time frame as well. So there were several of my friends were retiring and moving on. I didn't retire. I just kind of relocated because I'm still out there. I just enjoy being busy. There's no retiring. I don't want to do that. I don't think that would be a
Well,
really
we're
wise
neighbors now,
option.
Craig.
Yeah.
I'm in Colorado, so
Oh,
we're just
sure.
right next door to each
That's
other.
right. That's right. That's exactly not too far. Are you in the Denver area? What part of
I
the state
am.
are you
I'm
in?
in the
Yeah.
Denver area, right
Yeah.
around Cherry Creek.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So the Bell family, right? Your son Chris, you taught him from the time he could walk. 4-time Texas State champion, nationally ranked. You 2-1 Cotton Bowl father-son in 7 and 09. What's it like coaching your own kid to that level?
Well, it's tough to do because sometimes, it's hard to separate your hats sometimes you have to have dad hat on, sometimes you have to have coach hat on. So those two don't always coincide very well together. So, it's a delicate balance, but we're best friends, and we've spent a lot of time on the court. We actually enjoy each other's company out there, and we've never said a harsh word. I think Chris realized that I was putting my best dad hat on, but yet at the same time my best coaching hat on. So I kind of knew how to push, but yet do it in a gentle manner. That's always the way that I like to have instruction. So I kind of did the same thing, but yet at the same time, you've got to be that's your own kid out there. And I've got 3 daughters as well, and they're fabulous. So they've all played tennis. They grew up. Chris was the one who took it the furthest. The other ones all have a great background, but yeah, Chris, he's
Well,
he's got
Chris, he followed you into the business.
yes, he
So,
did. Yeah.
do you two talk shop? Does he
Oh
call
yeah.
you for advice?
Sure. Oh yeah. And so I'm very proud of him as well as some other assistants I've had over the years that are direction. I think I have about 5 out there right now that work for me that are out in various locations throughout the country. But yeah, Chris, he'll call me up but I always want him to learn. I let him go around Dallas also too. I was the main coach for him, as far as technique goes. I knew what I wanted him to look like. I wanted to be a serve and volleyer like me. And I just think that in the tennis space sometimes players have a tendency to back off, stay at the baseline, and not attack when they have the pressure on. So I made Chris more in my mold. He's better than I lost the family champ at about 15, Evan. I haven't wrestled it back. I don't think it's coming back anytime
I know
soon.
the feeling. I've got a son who plays as well. In
Yeah.
fact, this past weekend, we played at a wooden racket tournament at my club here in Denver, and we took away the W. So
All
that's a
right.
great feeling. But you know what?
No, it is.
More than the trophy, it was just the chance to be on court with my son, which was
Oh
so
yeah.
special.
No, I was
Truly.
like that with my dad because we played some tennis together. He was the one that started me playing tennis. We moved from a town in Oklahoma, in Southwest Oklahoma, Lawton, Oklahoma. Lived there 12 years. That was my whole world. And in between 6th and 7th grade, my dad took a job in Oklahoma City, or you never would have met me because I doubt I would have really played tennis in Lawton at the time growing up in the 70s. That was not the mecca of tennis in Oklahoma. Oklahoma City became the mecca, and at Wood Lake Racquet Club. So there were some defining moments out there. And my dad one day said, "Hey, Craig, do you want to go play tennis?" And I go, "Tennis?" I was a football, baseball, basketball kid, and I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And by 9th grade, I was still in the growing stages. I was 5'2" and weighed 110 pounds when I got my driver's license. So they didn't need any fast 5'2", 110-pound running backs at my high school in Oklahoma City, or I would have played football. But that's okay. Such is life. And tennis, like I said, that's when the club environment came on. My dad introduced me to a lifelong passion now. And I
Love
can't
that.
thank him enough. And so that's why it was a special moment to be able to play with my dad, and then also to play with Chris as well, to transfer of what I learned from my dad onto him and a bunch of other people as well. But, Chris, it is special once your family to be able to play, get out there, play some men's open tournaments, some father-son. My daughters, like I said, they're all fine players as well. They just never really wanted to go that distance. I've played some tournaments and some events with them as well, and they're fun. We're playing pickleball also too now, so a little bit. So that's kind of fun to do. My grandson is interested. He's 2, and so he's interested in playing some pickleball. So I think we're going to
Gotta
try
love
that
that.
out.
Gotta love that. Well, for those folks that are listening out there, so Craig and his partner AJ, hopefully I'm pronouncing it right,
Yep.
Chabria,
Yep.
have
That's
been
AJ.
doing have been doing the At the Net podcast since 2019, and they're closing in on 700 episodes twice a week. And if you haven't watched, go find them. You and AJ started that in 2019, almost 700 episodes. What keeps you two showing up?
Yeah, I think, for me and AJ, I think we're both curious. That's always a word that's out there that I think that's probably best describes what we're doing. Just like everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a story. The roles are turned on me now, and so it's unusual because I usually turn the roles the other way. We were talking to a gentleman last night, and it's more fun interviewing than being interviewed. Trust me. But it's just fun to be able to talk to people. We've gone 4 hours, Evan, on our podcast. Now we don't do that anymore because we know that we keep it to about probably 40 to 45 minutes in length now. And so I've had to pare down my third set. We do sets or games depending on the sport we're in with At the Net. So if we do tennis, it's a set. If it's paddle, we do a set. If it's in pickleball, we call them games. And so we do 3. AJ does the first 2 sets or segments, and then I do the third set or segment that
AJ called you Mr. Conviviality. You use that word all the time. What does conviviality mean to you, and why does it matter in this business?
Well, that's another good question. I love watching Rick Steves, the European travel guide. So I started watching him years ago. And a couple of years ago, I picked up on a word. He said convivial. I'd never, really had paid attention to convivial. So it's always a shout out to a tip of the hat to Rick Steves as far as convivial, friendly, to be able to just have a fun type interaction. Conviviality at its finest is always one of my things now that I say. So I think we try to be really friendly with our guests, with the opportunities we have to talk to people, because like I said, everybody has a great story out there. So it's our job, our opportunity to find those interesting storylines out there and try to bring them to our listeners.
Love that. So switching gears here, talking about your heritage, which I just absolutely love this story. You're a 6th generation member of the Chickasaw Indian Nation. Your 5th great grandfather, Levi Colbert, was chief of the Chickasaw Nation from the 1820s until he died in 1834. Your family was enrolled on the original Dawes tribal rolls. How much of that heritage shows up in your day-to-day life, and how much of it is something you carry privately?
Yeah, well, that's a great question as well. It's Colbert.
And by the way, sorry to interrupt, but
no.
To my audience, there aren't a lot of Native American voices in racket sports, and Craig's family history is very significant here. Please continue.
Well, no, thanks for that. It's Colbert in Oklahoma. Some people say Colbert. It's like Stephen Colbert, the
right.
talk show, spelled the same way, Colbert. He says Colbert. Down in Oklahoma, it's Colbert. And so, yes, you were correct. So I had an Uncle Colbert. So I didn't really realize there was a different pronunciation until I heard Stephen Colbert, and I was like, Stephen Colbert, that's Colbert. What's he talking about? But anyway, yes, I'm very proud of my Native American heritage. I knew about that growing up. It's from my mom's side. My great grandfather Levi, he was chief of the tribe right before the Trail of Tears, and so he passed away. And then his brother led the tribe over from northern Alabama, like kind of southern Tennessee, over to the Oklahoma area. We did not live in Chickasaw land. We lived in actually Comanche land in Lawton, and then in Oklahoma City. I'm trying to think. We were just south. Or just north, just north of the Chickasaw Nation. So it has kind of the middle of the state is basically Chickasaw Nation. And, to watch what has gone on in the last probably 35 or 40 years with the nation, it's unbelievable. We're probably, if we're not the wealthiest, we're probably the 2nd or 3rd wealthiest tribe in the United States. The chief that was been undisputed chief for 40 plus years, a guy named Bill Anatubby, just resigned, and his son took over. And Bill Anatubby took this tribe to the next level and figured out ways of partnering with government services and then also tribal gaming. If you watch the Dallas Cowboys, sometimes you'll see WinStar casinos. That's actually the world's largest casino. I don't know how that's the world's largest because I don't know how we measured that, but that is our casino right in Thackerville, Oklahoma, which is a mile north of the Red River and on I-35. But to watch what Chief Anatubby has done, we actually call him governor now, but either way is correct. But watch what this gentleman's put together. And the interesting part of the American heritage that I'm a part of as well. I find it, like I said, really fascinating, and I'm so proud of my ancestry and all my those who have gone before me. They were able to sign their name on the Dawes Tribal Rolls. Not everybody was able to do that, so we were fairly educated at the time. And my grandmother, my great grandmother, to be able to provide that lineage and just it. We think about it every day. Actually, we're trying to get my grandson on the tribal rolls, and my daughter was talking about that with me at the table a couple of days ago. She was just talking about that today. She says, we're gonna have to call up to the nation headquarters, which is in Ada, Oklahoma. Then, so we printed off some stuff, and it's just kind of fun to know that, hopefully, my granddad's looking down and going, "Hey, Craig, you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work."
I
We
love that.
don't want to see you anytime soon, but
I love that.
one day, we'll be able to say Chakma, which is hello, and that's in Chickasaw is Chakma, and so
Well, when you
I've
step
enjoyed.
on the court, Craig, maybe you can introduce that to your opponent, or at least to some
Say
friends
Chakma.
when you're running a drill. Yeah,
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, and again, it's very, very rare. If I mean, you're maybe the only person, but having a Native American voice in racket sports,
Yeah,
I
there's not
think
many of us.
is is very significant. So I always end my podcasts with a question to my guests that if a young tennis pro called you tomorrow and said, "Hey, Craig, I just got offered my first director of tennis job at a country club. I'm 28. What do I need to know?" And what do you tell them?
That's a really good question, because I've thought about that even with some of our guests, and what would you tell your younger self? To me, it was always about work as hard as you can, get up, go to work, and just be there, because you've got to be there. Don't shy away from the tennis industry. The tennis industry is a massive amount of hours. You better like it. You better love it. You better be immersed in it, because there for about 35, almost 40 years, I never had a Memorial Day, 4th of July, or Labor Day off. I worked, and I had fun, but it was still, I was at the club, but we had a great time. I mean, my kids know no Memorial Day mania, because that was the name of the Memorial Day event. Hot as a firecracker on 4th of July and the Labor Day lob. And so they knew that that was just the names of, I came up with some goofy names. I think every event or activity needs a name. It needs a theme. I had some other ones also too, but you just have to be interesting also to people. It's not about you. The mirror turns on, not you. It doesn't face this way. It faces this way. And start asking questions about, the members and getting to know them, because they'll take care of you. Once you start showing that compassion towards the members, it's not about you. They all know I can play tennis. They know you can play tennis, Evan. They assume that the manager did a good job of vetting somebody out that can play tennis. So they know that. So it's not about me and being able to hit 130-mile-an-hour serve, or being able to, who'd you play, growing up, or that kind of stuff. They'll get to that eventually. Yeah, there's a few times I pulled out the 130 mile an hour. I didn't hit it too many times, but they were like, whoa, okay, he can do that. So I didn't, if I had to, I did, but I was more interested in what I could do for them, and what their needs were. Ask a lot of questions. How many times a week are you going to play? How much are you going to practice? That kind of thing. So I was always analyzing, and I knew kind of how to be able to maneuver through that space for them, because I wanted them to be happy out here at the club, and know that whether they took lessons or not, I was there for them. And obviously I'd like them to take a few lessons, and get better. But at the same time, if they just wanted to play on their own, that was fine too. I was happy that they were members and paying dues, actually. And that was part of my salary. And so that I was going to sell them something, maybe in the shop, or maybe they come out to an event, or maybe we would just have lunch together. And so that's how I kind of view telling that younger person, don't sweat the small stuff. Just show up every day, ready to go. And that's why I told my staff as well, like, look, leave your problems at home. Everybody's got problems. They don't want to hear yours. If they want to talk about theirs, that's fine also too. But your problems stay in the parking lot. So
Well,
just get out there
that
to
is
go.
sound advice from a guy who has done it all, literally. So,
Well,
Craig, I
thank you.
thank you so much for being on the show,
Yep.
and
It was fun.
you're great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the time, Evan. Maybe one day I'll be over in the Denver area, and we can have a coffee or a drink, or share a meal together.
That would be fabulous.